Hi there, welcome to Mark Kennard's channel where we're always learning. And this week we are doing a very special artist profile on a guy called Dizu Plaatjes from South Africa. He is an extraordinary bow player, bow maker, and educator. And Dizu started the band called Amapondo in the late 70s. They traveled all over the world, played Mandela's 70th birthday concert at Wembley Stadium, and then went on to work with a bunch of other people all over the world again. One of them included Juno Reactor, a techno band that I happened to work for, and we ended up both working on the same project for The Matrix, the second Matrix for the soundtrack, although we never met in those days. So I'm very happy to be able to sit down with Dizu Plaatjes, which I did recently in Cape Town, and talk about all things bow. Now, just before we get started, you might want to go and take a look at my episode on bows. That will give you a kind of ground structure or framework to understand all the stuff that we're talking about here. So let's get started. So welcome to my channel, and thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
Very good to meet you. I've heard about you so much and followed you from Amapondo days and everything.
Wow.
So it's going back a bit. But firstly, tell us about yourself. Like, where were you born?
I was actually born, in Pondoland, in Lusikisiki, in a place called Rombe village. But I grew up here. I came when I was very young. And so I grew up with an environment where my people were master bow players. My father is a traditional healer. So I grew up in that environment.
So your whole family was basically involved in music making,
Yeah, exactly.
Not just bows, but all sorts of things.
All sorts of things, because I had a brother who was a violinist. My father, he sings, but he never sang for professionally, And the whole family, actually, they're all singers and musicians.
So would you say that in the culture that you grew up in, music making is akin to breathing or eating? It's just a part of the fabric of life.
Yeah, because music plays a very important part in our lives, We cannot do without music. We live music, we eat music, we walk music, we do anything. The only thing that we don't play music is only when we are asleep, Mike.
And even then, maybe you dream music.
Yeah, we dream music. You might sing while we are sleeping. So we make music right through whether we are asleep or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is that, why I specialize with the bow is that my grandfather originally came from Tsolo. Tsolo is in the Eastern Cape. Where he comes from, we were not very far from the San people. So the Pondomise clan, which is my clan, we were the closest people to the San. In so much that even the intermarriage, the blood amongst ourselves with the same blood and so on, because we live together in one village.
Okay.
So you can imagine now how we started learning the bows. Xhosas or Pondos or Pondomises, they were never bow hunters. When we hunt, it's with dogs, with spears and knobkerries.
Interesting.
Now, the San with a bow. Now, when you look at the bow, it was a bow and arrow, but it later became a traditional instrument because they had any other instrument that they were playing except the bows. Even though they had the sadza, which is the mbira, and some other instrument looked like a kora, but not many people were playing those instruments.
So do you think, this is something I mentioned on my episode on the bows, is I was wondering whether it was first a musical instrument that someone later said, oh, this could make a weapon. Or if it was a weapon and someone later said, this makes a cool sound. What do you think?
It was first a weapon, and then it later became a traditional instrument. Because imagine now, the San people How would they hunt with something? Because now I think that the bow, why I'm saying that it was the first weapon, you only rejoice when you've got an animal in front of you, then you eat. But how would you kill an animal without, So first it was a weapon and then later became a traditional instrument because they've got to enjoy themselves now when the meat is in front of them, by playing the very same instrument. But now also, I don't know whether maybe the scholars have went through this because the bows originally and historically, we were not using a wire. We're using a gut.
That's right. Right.
So it's a very soft instrument in such a way that it always performed and played in a very quiet place if you want to hear it clearly. The early records of some other, engineers and so on with the instrument, they've got such a beautiful sound of the gut, because the sound is totally different. Totally different.
So getting back to the san.
Yes.
Because it's I'm no anthropologist, but it seems fairly common knowledge that the san were sort of in a way the prototype human, that we all trace our lineage back there, and it would follow suit that if that's the case, then musically that would be the same.
It's the same
idea. So that would make the san mouth bow the traditional prototype string instrument that every other string instrument you know of, including electric guitars, can trace their lineage back to that bow. Would you agree with that?
I fully agree with you. For instance, take an example, a guitar. When you look at the guitar, it's got an arm and a bridge and a kind of a sound box. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, if on this bow, Uwadi, I happen to put 3 strings here, and then I play, and if I put 3 strings, I'm going to put them differently, and then I'm going to put the pegs differently so that each key sounds different to another. Now, when I play, but even now that is one, you might hear the guitar. So that is why I always say that this was the very first guitar.
Yeah, yeah.
If we say the same people were the very first inhabitants, people of this country, now, when we look at this, but the same people, they never play this instrument like I play. The calabash will always separate to the stick. Yeah?
Explain what you mean.
Yeah. When they play, they don't play. This is Ngoni style, this one.
Okay.
All the Ngoni tribe, they play this instrument like this.
Okay.
But the San, they don't. They sit down, the calabash will be down. When they play, this part is going to be here, and they're going to play like a guitar. That is why I'm saying that this was the very first guitar.
Interesting. So the mouth bow that the San play is different, if I'm correct, to the Mrube, because with the Mrube you bow.
Yes.
With that mouth bow, they're hitting it. Is that correct?
Yes.
This is the San mouth bow.
In so much that is why I brought 2, so that when I explain, you'll understand what I'm trying to say. Oh, yeah? Okay. A bow hunting, at first, you need a stronger stick, because this might break when you are bowing, killing an animal.
Right.
Yeah? Now, when you are playing, you use a lighter bow, because this has got more resonance.
Okay.
It's a lighter wood than this one.
Yeah.
And if you look at the wires, are totally different. This one is thinner and higher. This one is thin but little lower.
Interesting. Okay.
I'm a master with these things. I know the friction. I know everything. This is what I'm doing now. I'm writing a book not about the bows. about the different types of wood I get because I've
Interesting.
made hundreds of different bows, you know. So what I'm trying to say, Mark, is that you see this one is very heavy. So for me to bow, it doesn't sound good because the wood is very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good now when I play like this. Like this is typically the San style of playing.
Okay.
You know, because we are different in terms of playing the San and the Xhosa speaking people.
So that's the style of the San
San,
people.
yes.
Now, for the people who you can see that you're stopping the string and you're getting two different
Yes.
pitches. It's a tone apart.
Yes.
How about the whistling though? How the hell do you do that?
In so much that, you know what, with whistling, either the person is inhaling or exhaling. Never ever hear somebody exhaling and inhaling. That is one of the most difficult part of this instrument. You can do all what I do, but that, telling you, is not easy.
Now, are you whistling out of the side of your tongue, or
Yes.
how is it actually?
From my side of my mouth.
Okay.
Because when I put the instrument here, I leave the space or gap where now all the breath, when I inhale, it goes in. Even when I exhale, it goes out. While it's going out with the friction of the string, the vibration of the string, now I start like. So what I was doing now, I was inhaling and exhaling, which you will never find anyone doing that.
Doing that.
Never.
It's either one or the other.
Yes, because now it's like, because why I'm saying that, I've met quite a number of experts, you know, hobby players and so on, asking them the very same thing. You play a song, I listen to the song, and then I said that, okay, I'm going to play the very same song that you're playing, but differently. You know, I'll lead the song by exhaling, and then I do the backing.
Okay.
Yes, so that's very difficult because now you've got to change your mouth when you are inhaling or when you are exhaling. You've got to change a bit of your mouth and so on. And also, this hope must be in a position whereby you can do that.
Okay. Now, show me, if you would, then the Xhosa style of playing
Of playing
this instrument.
Okay.
Yeah. And what the differences are.
Okay. Handling, mouth is the same.
Okay.
It's only the bowing that is different.
And typically, what wood do you have to use to get that friction?
This one,
Is that just a basic reed?
it grows in Pondoland, my brother, this one.
Okay.
It grows in Pondoland and we call it Isqungu.
Okay.
That's the original name, Isqungu. It grows where I come from in Pondoland.
Okay.
You know, yes. And now, the Xhosa women also, they whistle.
Okay.
Yes. They do whistle while they are playing the instrument.
In the same kind of way.
In the same
Out the
kind
side
of
of the
way.
mouth.
When that happens, you kiss your stick. I'm dampening.
Okay.
So that now it can produce a better sound.
Okay.
I did that purposely so that you know.
can see it.
Otherwise, it will be very difficult to start to explain without demonstrating.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yes.
Wow. It's just stunning to me how deceptively simple this instrument is. You think it's a piece of wood and a wire, and then you start listening and you're bowing. There's rhythm. You're stopping, and now you're whistling a whole melody on top. It's like a band in a stick.
Exactly.
It's incredible.
So if you count, there are so many different sounds that are going on at the same time. You know, one time even Andrew Tracy once said that, this instrument supposed to be the national instrument of this country. I said, why? He said, this is the most beautiful instrument I've ever had. Because you can imagine the instrument by itself, amongst the Xhosa-speaking people, men were not allowed to play this instrument.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that the same with the San people?
The San people, there are sometimes we find that the San people, they play all the instruments, but there are some other instruments also played by women and men.
Okay.
Some other instrument only men, and some other instrument only by women.
Okay. So did they think there was something wrong with you when you were a kid that you wanted to?
Because me is that what helped me is that most of my aunts and my grandmothers, they used to play this instrument. So because I was the youngest in the family, so it was easy for them to teach me. And the love of this instrument, it came when I was growing up. Then when we are young, we are always taught instrument and so on. But when you grow up, if there is a call that comes to you about the very same instrument that you were taught when you were young, that's how I became a musician. Because there was that call. It was not maybe I just fell in love by seeing other people. It was a call.
What's your first memory of playing an instrument, and what instrument was it that you very first played?
The very first instrument, because we never had many instruments also as Xhosa speaking people. We had at least about 4 different instruments, which is inkinge, similar to this one, but in a galon, you bow when you are playing it, and this one, and uwadi, and istolotolo, which is a chohab.
Oh.
So those are the only mainly 4 instruments that the Xhosa speaking we are playing. It's only that we had to borrow quite a number of different instruments, we musicians, that moving across, yes.
And is it, I mean, it seems now common that men and women will play these instruments.
Oh,
I know
yes.
in the Zulu culture, with the makoyani,
Exactly.
is also traditionally played by women.
By women,
but
yes.
that's changing, correct?
It's changing, and also why it's changing is because of the dying culture.
Yeah.
That's the problem,
Yeah.
because neither of us, we want our culture to die. That is why also I was one of the very first and fortunate musicians to revive this music back to the people again. Otherwise, amongst the Xhosa speaking people, this instrument, it was just an instrument which they forgot about it, and so on and so on.
Yeah, I was doing research for this, making this episode. I came across many articles that were saying in the 80s and 90s is basically the art of bow playing had almost just about died.
Yes.
Is it being revived now because in academic circles, are universities trying to promote teaching this instrument? I know my friend Sazi Dlamini in Durban, who we studied together,
Yes, okay.
has released a book or edited a book on Zulu bows and or bows of Southern Africa, and there is a revival there at that university. Is that the same here in the Cape?
Yeah, it's same here in the Cape as well, because if you can go across around South Africa, you'll find that I've taught quite a number of bow players. Yeah, and because of, not only because of I teach at the university, I also do it after school, because teaching is just something inside me, and I've got also, the community students, even there's quite a number of people now who wants to learn these bows, which is good. It's good.
Absolutely. Especially that the bow is this bow as an instrument, and we'll talk about the uhadi in a sec, has really traveled the world in a way unlike any other instrument. I mean, Brazil is full of berimbau.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's basically uhadi, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
And you can find all sorts of renditions of a bow, even mouth bows, all over the world. Right, as I mentioned in my episode, right up to the Appalachian Mountains in America, which is the craziest thing ever. These guys living in those, basically rednecks living in these mountains, playing this, almost cowboy music. It's it's just crazy. That's what I love about music, is everything is about osmosis and how things develop.
No, it's true. That's very true, Mark.
And this instrument has just such an amazing legacy, and it's just I think it's important that people go back and realize how so much stuff came from this.
Exactly. Also, just to add on what you are saying, this instrument also is not, it used to be a solo instrument, but because of we are musicians, and now I'm forcing this instrument to play with also other instruments, which it fits beautifully.
Yeah.
I've done with rock, I've done with jazz, I've done with classic, I've done with African music, So never, ever limit the instrument because of you say that you don't have a tuning peg. Try and create a tuning peg, because this now is the answer.
Yeah.
If they are playing in C, it's easy. I'll tune it to C, to G, to whatever.
Exactly.
Key, because now, in the olden days, there was no peg. When you tune this, you've got to take your shoes out.
Right.
Yeah? And then you've got to press it.
Exactly.
It happened to me when I was in Norway, and then my mkhube break. Hey!
Oh, no.
Telling you. I was just about to record. So that is why I decided that, you know what? Let me put a tuning peg.
How do you, where does the string, I see, you make a groove for it on the top, then it just goes on the side.
Exactly.
I did fit a tuning peg to my uhadi
Yes.
that I have, and it makes a huge difference.
Oh.
And then I also have a berimbau. Do you know Greg Bayer? Does that name ring a
Yes.
bell from Arca Musical?
Yes, yes.
He made a big berimbau like that for me that has a beautiful tuning
Tuning
peg on
peg,
it.
yes.
But I've reset it more like it's like an uhadi.
Okay.
So I took the brace off.
Okay, okay.
So it's really an uhadi, but
Okay.
it's a big thing with it's just great. I have it in Makwayana, but that is made of bamboo.
Makwayana.
The one I have, which I don't think is traditional. It's normally made of something that looks more like that.
Yes, yes. But also the bamboo one, you know, if ever it produces sound, never underestimate the sound that you're getting, because it's going to be different to the wood, you know.
Right.
So
Right.
whatever thing that we are using, always say that, you know, here now I've used bamboo, the stick or the wood sound like this.
Yeah.
Then you can make a comparison. And
Exactly.
hear. Yes.
The problem with the bamboo is it's quite thin, and I don't think I can put a tuning peg in there.
And it's hollow. Also.
And it's hollow.
Yes.
So I built this weird little contraption in the calabash where the string goes around that I can actually make it go out.
Okay.
And in that way I can sort of tune it a little bit.
Okay.
But it's not ideal.
Okay.
So do you think that the development from this to the uhadi was something that had a time frame? Did the uhadi come from this, or do you think they developed together at the same time?
I'm sure they developed together at the same time, because after hunting, when they are happy, always there was that uhadi with them, even though they don't call it uhadi, you know. But it's very quiet. The sound is very quiet, but it sounds beautiful. Let me tell you.
Because of the gut rather
Because
than
of
the steel.
it sounds beautiful. It sounds beautifully, you know.
And when do you think it became standard for people to start replacing it with steel? Because as we know, steel had been forged in, Southern Africa long before colonialization started.
I heard about that.
So do you think it started even before Europeans arrived here in the sort of 1500s? Do you think it was already... The problem with these instruments is they don't last, right? So
Exactly.
we have very little evidence.
Exactly. In some ways, that is very difficult to answer that question, because when I first saw the Uadi and Mkhube tune of a gut, I said that, this is so beautiful. But now, when I saw the wire, and then I said that, hey, this is sound even more louder now, for the people. So I think, Mark, that this and Uadi came at the same time. Because there's not much difference except the size and the calabash. Yeah? Because now, with this one, we use mouth as a resonator. So the calabash plays the part of amplifying.
Right.
Yes. But San people had many different bows. Not only the two.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, I thought it was
San, they had many, many different bows. When I was doing a research in Namibia, that's when I started seeing them. There's also same like Uati, long one, and so on, which they plug it also in the mouth and they start playing. And the stopping and opening is totally different. Yes, and there's also what we call it Ikatar, which is in Kinge, the one that wind with a horse tail, and it's got a gallon.
So the winding is the resonance on the string?
Yes. Now, when they are winding, here's the gallon, they are winding. Then the gallon, it's a resonator. It makes the sound very loud. There's also the one that they are using in Lesotho, which they call it Lisiba, which you plug it like that, and then that's also the same bow.
Interesting. Have you ever come across a bow that is resonated by making a hole in the ground, and then they put the stick into the ground, and that's actually the resonator?
Yes, I've seen them doing that.
Okay.
Yes, I've seen them doing that.
Yeah, I came across that in my research, and I was like, wow, never seen that before.
I've seen them doing that.
Bit difficult to travel with that.
Oh,
you have to dig a hole every gig. You're like digging a hole.
That's the problem. Wow.
So would you show us your uhadi?
Uhadi, yes.
Not in front of all these people. That's an amazing calabash, that.
Yeah.
So you do all this yourself? You make your own calabashes and everything?
Everything. Is everything, even the wire. You know, when you are a bow maker, I go to different places where they sell wire. I'll buy different types and sizes of wires.
Okay.
Sometimes some other wires, they don't work.
Yeah.
But keep it, don't throw it away. Other sticks, other different wood will also work.
Is the wire, is it basically piano wire that you buy?
No, not only piano wire.
But guitar wire?
Not even guitar wire.
Okay.
I just go to Cape Fencing where they sell wire and so on.
Oh, okay.
Then I choose, then I also bring some of my wires. You see, like this one, I bought in France, this one. Okay. Almost about 15 years ago. It's still here, it does not break. One of the best wire.
Wow.
Yes, I use it in Mkhope, I use it Wadi, but now, because of when you make the bows, you've got to match the calabash, the wood, and the wire. Because sometimes you might have a beautiful calabash and the stick, but the wire sound crap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you've got to retune. Me, I first start with the wire, I take the calabash, and then I see if I'm not satisfied, I take off the calabash, I put another calabash. If it does not work, I took off the wire and this one, and I redo it again.
Okay, so it's about getting that
Exactly.
mixture between three elements.
Because I don't want to give people what is not satisfying me, you know, because I'm a bow player myself. So that is why, like, so now, yes, you are also a bow player, yeah? And then, yes, so you see, I'm not using the old way which I was taught by my grandmothers and my aunts and so on. Because some of that style is being recorded by Dave Taki, Andrew Tracy, and so on. So in this instrument, you must always try and develop your own sound.
It's an expression of who you are and your soul and your humanity. I saw you do something that I've not seen before
Yes.
in Uhadi playing, which is you played on this side of your finger.
Yes.
We're stopping, which Berumba players do a lot.
Exactly. And, you know, it's not also, you know, there are many ways that I do play, you know, the art. So don't be limited with the stick, saying that you play this. Also, So I can change like a guitar, change the pitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't limit myself when I play one.
By the way, what do you use to connect the calabash to the? Is it just some kind of gut, or
No, I
was
use,
it a steel?
I use a string.
Just regular string.
A
like-
regular
okay.
string, but it must be a tight string so that is why I don't even put a big cloth because it's tight. You
'Cause it's quite tight.
Yes, because also the calabash must not be tight as if you cannot do this.
Okay.
Yes,
So not too, because I know some people will actually just put a screw,
Yes.
a nut into the calabash, and it's really
Amongst us, we Xhosa speaking people, you know that you mute the sound. You know,
okay,
there's some of different sounds that you're gonna miss.
And when you're playing, like for example, when you were singing a little earlier, is that a song you wrote, or a song, a traditional song, or?
That's the song that we always play at home. It's a song of our aunt. Yes, that's the song we normally play. Even everybody, it's Mari who first recorded that song. I was bringing all sorts of different musicians to this, you know, man. And he ended up recording all those different instruments.
All those years ago.
Yes. I want to show you the last instrument
Okay.
that I've got here. You know, because when I did research of this sand bow instrument, firstly, you don't see the instrument with the same people. You always happen to come across with people maybe from Mozambique,
Uh-huh.
Zimbabwe, because this instrument, I knew it long time ago, but I've never tried up until I went to a bow conference that was organized by Sazi Dlamini in Durban. Then there was a group of Mozambican musicians that were selling this instrument, but you know, it was not like this. This I've made it myself because I wanted a deeper sound.
Okay.
You know, and as you know, this is
Packing tape.
packing tape. Yes. But in the olden days, they would use a palm tree. A palm,
Gotcha.
yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. And so...
That is bonkers. What the hell is that? What do you call that?
This is a Chizambe.
Okay.
Chizambe, yes. I'm sure also the name is come from that they call it Chizambe. Same as Umkhope. The sound you hear is then we call it Umkhope.
But you started out playing this without even touching that. You were
Yes.
playing just the bow.
Exactly.
I've never seen that before. Wow.
So this is what I'm saying, that with this instrument, I'll be taught by whoever, but I will always try and come with my unique sound, my different way of playing the instrument.
And so you saw this,
Yes.
what they had, and you were like, oh, I'll cut some grooves in there.
Yes.
That's a cool thing.
Exactly.
And isn't that the beauty of music making, right?
I'm telling you, music making, my brother, oh man, I'm telling you, that's what keeps me going, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's always in a sense of going somewhere, development. You see an instrument and you say, oh, I want to try that with that instrument.
Exactly.
And that's what I find exciting about music.
For instance, maybe, you know, how important are these people, the San and the Khois? Around 1497, when Vasco da Gama first came here, he was welcomed by the Khois. We've got a problem of mixing the two because of the scholars when started writing the books. They say Khoi San. There is no such as Khoi San. San are different, Khois are different.
Gotcha.
Sen are shorter, kois are taller.
Yeah.
Yes, because also making instrument at a place called Kwatu is a place of the Sen people. That's where I got that from them, not from other people, you know.
Yeah.
He told me, Dizu, I'm not Khoi, I'm a Sen. Hey, and then I said that, I'm sorry. What's the difference between, he's the one who told me that story.
Huh.
So, the Khois, they welcome Vasco da Gama with the single note pipes. There are about 400 of them.
Okay.
And Vasco da Gama could not move because he was blown away. And, you know, the Khois they were using, you know, when this part of the animal, maybe a sheep, they make kind of an arc like that, and then they will play as a single pipe. Yes. Now, you see the paddies, you see the vendors, you see the Tswana people playing that. But who were the first people?
Who did that? And it's basically a bone flute.
Yes, they were using bones, all different types of bones and so on. But it's only that no one recorded the music.
Right.
That's the problem.
And has that gone away, or have you seen
Oh,
that
I'm
instrument?
It's dead.
Yeah.
You only see it now in the museum. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. You don't even see the Sen or the Khois playing that.
Mm.
What I'm trying to say, all these instruments that today we always say that no, we started. Go back and do a research, and then you'll find out.
Yeah.
For instance, we Xhosa-speaking people, we took over 2,000 words to empower Xhosa from the Sen people.
Yeah.
The clapping, the singing, the dancing is the same because we live with them.
Yeah.
You know, so that is why I like this instrument, because it takes me way, 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 way back beyond what, you know, and as a result, I discover so many different things with this instrument. Yes.
No, that's fascinating. I've never seen anything like that. It's incredible. And just, you know, just in Southern Africa, you know, there's, so you have Uhadi, but then the Zulus have Ugubu, which is actually kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Kind of the same thing. It's only the name. You know, these two instruments, Uhadi and Umkhobe, it's got so many different names because of the language of the people.
Right, right.
And also there are different types of bows, which some you've got only two fundamental, when you play and when you open. Now, some they've got three fundamental, yeah?
Like a Makwayani.
Like a Makwayana, and the Chipendano, because, you know, it's got also the brace, so you can play a different key, and also this side a different key.
Yeah.
You know, people, they always think that maybe all these bow, they've already got two fundamentals. No, they are different.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And is it called the Chitende from Mozambique?
Chitende,
it's the same
yes.
thing.
It's the same thing.
It's
the same thing.
And then more like Uhadi,
More
I
like
think. In Angola, you have the Mbulumbumbu.
Exactly.
Which is it played sideways? Is that I can't remember which one is played sideways, but
and
then the Hungu, which is
yes.
also more actually what the Berimbau became.
Exactly.
Which they put the gourd on their stomach, not on the breast. And I noticed when you were playing it, you're not moving it like that. You're kind of rocking it with the Uhadi.
Yes.
Is that a sort of traditional way?
Typically traditional way, but now when I play with other people, I don't even do that traditionally. I'll play a different style now by opening, you know, like the Berimbau.
Yeah. Have you played Berimbau?
I play Berimbau. I make Berimbaus. All those Makwayana I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You see, this instrument, they've got lots of different names. Zulus, the Uhadi to them is Ukupu. And amongst the Pondo-speaking people, we call it Ukupu. But now the mouth bow, the Pondos, they call it Umqange, you know. Same as also the Zulu people, they call it Umqange, you know. And so you might find it's the same instrument, it's only a language that changes the name of the instrument.
Right. Plus a few little alterations here and there. Like a, you know, that's basically like a guiro, you know, that you've got on there.
Exactly.
Do you have any other things you would like to show in your bag?
These are the typically Pondo instruments. You know, I always say that Maury was the first to record. As we know that French people were the first to record the African music, especially in the Francophone area. Yeah. And then, but around here in Cape Peninsula is Maury first recorded his instrument, my brother. You know, they can tell you wherever is Maury Anderson. You know, so this one is an instrument that we grew up, you know, while we are taking care of the cattle, you know, in the field and so on. But it was made out of bamboo, not out of the PVC pipe. But this one is more flexible, you know, you can, you know. And also what I like about it is that if you are a traveler and a musician, you want to always jam with the other musician, the only thing that you do, when you want to change the pitch, you've got to cut, you know.
Okay.
But you must not have one, you must have few.
Yeah.
Because you might cut up until you can't, you know.
Yeah. You can't uncut.
And you can't uncut, my brother. So this is a technique of playing, you know, this instrument. You can see my finger, there is open for my breath. So, because I grew up, my first instrument was trumpet, so I was playing, yes. So that is why it's easy to blow this. And then now I'm going to change the pitch. You saw at first I was not changing anything.
Wow, that's crazy. You can get a whole
No
scale out of
holes.
that thing. Amazing.
Also, this one, you practice, my brother. You practice because, you know, with this instrument, the African people did not just make it for pleasure because they could know those young boys who goes there in the field, they like to smoke. So this is good for the lungs. That was the purpose.
Yes. Okay, I see.
Yes. Yeah, yes.
And what is that called?
Umchingo.
Okay.
Umchingo. Last but not least.
Wow.
Mr. Anderson.
Two bows.
And you can bow it too. You can bow a bow.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. Because, you know,
That's horsehair, I would imagine, or?
no, this is sisal.
Oh.
Sometimes you see the aloe leaves, they're like that.
Yeah.
Scrape it. You'll
Okay.
also find this.
That's crazy.
And then you try it. Wow. And then also you've got to go to the bush and get the carved one, dry it, and then you put this.
And is this is, I'm assuming, it's not a traditional thing that you were taught to do. You just decided one day, oh, let's bow a bow.
I'm telling you, you know, also sometimes this one, I first saw it from one of my students from East Africa called Wambui Minor. And then she brought this, and then I said, hey, wait a minute. Because what I was using, I used to buy those violin bows, then I'll cut, then I'll do this.
I see.
But now this girl, she brought this to me, and we had a lot of alu at home. Then I tried, but hey, it's too, you know, the alu, you've got those tongs and so on. So, yeah. So, I used to use now what you call this, the violin one, but it's a horse tail.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and it also sounds very nice.
Yeah.
This one, it sounds nice even if you didn't put that resin,
Right.
you know. Yes.
Right. Well, I'll have to try that when I get home.
Do that one.
Take my horsehair bow and see if I can.
You'll get the beautiful sound. Yes.
Man, I got to thank you. This has been so amazing to sit down with you and just talk about this fascinating instrument, and I hope we can, reach people
Exactly.
in the future to carry on this tradition and to expand upon it.
Exactly,
It would
because
be
also to add, Mark, these musical instruments are not just musical instruments which people they've got to ignore and to say, no, I cannot do this, I cannot play this. Once you find out the history of the instrument, then that's where you really like or love the instrument.
Yeah.
Because we always thought that maybe we never had any instrument, we've got to copy everything from everywhere. But you find that now, this instrument, when you listen and what other people could develop out of this, it will be something that will amaze people. So
Exactly.
I always say to people, never ignore what is yours, because the people who created this instrument, they had time. They knew, they had prediction of things that are going to happen with this instrument. For instance, a bow is not, where I come from, we don't just bow, No. A bow, it works in many different ways.
Yeah.
Even when a baby is not moving in the stomach, we use the bow to find out whether the kid is okay in the stomach.
Huh.
Yes. You see now.
That's like the how some people in European countries or whatever play Mozart to the babies.
I'm telling
you. So this is the traditional version of that.
Yes. Because I was playing this bow in a place called Ivry in France. And one doctor said, couldn't believe that when I was telling them this. He took me to the hospital, man, with this, to all those ladies, French women. When I just play one string, the vibration of the calabash, it goes straight to the stomach. They were giggling. I said, you see? Because that was used because we never ever had any gynecologist right deep in the pundus.
Right.
So you've got to use something that could also work the same as the gynecologist, And it really worked because that's how you can find your baby that is okay. Yeah. There's no other means or any instrument that you could do except this uadi.
Yeah.
And the uadi is played mainly by the adult women, not by young women.
Right.
And it's the instrument that is performed at night, not during the day.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
Would you say it's more... I mean, it's obviously not a religious instrument, but it's a spiritual instrument.
It's a spiritual instrument, but at the same time, when missionaries first came, people, they also used it through some of the other church hymns and so on.
Okay.
Yes.
It was the Ohadi ever used as a means to accompany someone's journey? Meaning, if you had a long journey, you had to walk 20 kilometers, 50 kilometers. Would you take a Ohadi with you to accompany you?
That the only instrument that I know that used to be accompanied, especially women when they are traveling, is umkhobe.
Okay.
Yes, it's umkhobe. With the umkhobe, they were training women to master umkhobe. In so much that umkhobe is not just an instrument, it's an instrument whereby the loved one, we've got those valleys, in the rural areas where we meet our loved ones, they will play this umkhobe for you because you're not going to touch. And the only thing you've got to give your girlfriend the present either is a handkerchief with beads. Mm-hmm. That is the best present.
Okay.
And you are getting the beautiful music out of her,
Yeah.
So love was so romantic, so beautiful with this instrument.
Yeah.
There's lots of bows, my brother. There's one, they call it umvet. It's got 3 calabas, but you play it, you plug like a guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one in Mexico.
Yes.
Also a bow with 2 calabashes.
Yes.
With 3 strings.
Exactly.
And again, you play it like a guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating. Yeah. But no, thank you very much, man. Thank you
you.
so much for
Thank
this.
you, my
This has
brother.
been a great sit
Thank
down.
you so much.
And I also want to thank Murray and Claire from Milestone Studios here in Cape Town. They very graciously allowed us to do this filming in their studio. So thank you guys very much for that. And again, thank you for your knowledge, your wisdom, and your beauty. Do you think you could perhaps play us one more song on Little Heidi before we go?
Okay.
Dizzy Blackies, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, my
It's been
brother.
an absolute pleasure.
Nice one.